So this is how sleeping scientists study sleeping and dreaming. Basically, you can look at people's brain wave. Okay? And this is the brain wave when they are awake. You can see those waves are smaller. As they sleep, go into deeper and deeper stage of sleeping, the brain wave is getting larger and larger. Okay, so stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, 4, and then they will come back to stage 2, stage 1, and then REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. There was one time that people thought that people only dream during REM sleep, but recent studies find that actually, in addition to REM sleep, people still dream in non-REM stages. Last week, we introduced you the first research team. According to that team, there is a difference in the mood quality in non-REM sleep and REM sleep. Usually, during non-REM sleep, people are in a more positive mood. And during non-REM sleep, people are in a more negative mood. And you can see this kind of phenomenon on patients with depression. They usually when they go sleep, they will go straight to REM sleep. So there is a hypothesis that REM sleep has something to do with your negative emotion, and non-REM sleep has something to do with your positive emotion. Okay, that is one hypothesis. And then I'm not sure whether I have played the second part of that video, because the second part of that video, they also interviewed another research team in another university. And the second research team, according to their study, their focus is on the non-REM sleep, and they found that it has something to do with your learning. Okay. In that video, they recruited the subjects to go to their lab, and before sleeping, the subject has to play a ski game, okay? And then they go to sleep. In the beginning of the night, the contents of the sleep, the contents of the dream, is more like a replay of what the subject has just learned. Okay? But towards the end of the night, towards the later part of the night, those dreams become more and more relevant to the personal experience of the subject. Okay. For skiing games, the early part of the night, the contents of the dream, they are mostly just like a replay of what the subject has just learned. But gradually, the subject started to integrate his own experiences into the dream. Okay. So according to their hypothesis, why do we dream? Because we are learning new things every day. And to learn new things, you have to integrate your new knowledge or your new skills into your old knowledge. And these integrations, they happened during dreaming. Okay, so this is a second hypothesis. Why do we dream? Because we have to integrate our newly learned skills or knowledge into our old knowledge. Okay. And actually there is another research team in that video, which is even more interesting because they are trying to investigate the dreaming of a rat. Okay. Rat. Which is bizarre. How could you know how and why and what a rat dreams about? They use a technology. And to explain this technology, I have to explain some other findings in physiological psychology. For rat, the way to measure their dream is to get them to run in the maze. Okay, let's assume there's a maze. Imagine there's a maze. and the rat is here. Okay, a rat. So the rat can run around in the maze. And inside of the rat's brain, there is a structure called hippocampus. For human, hippocampus has something to do with our memory. For rat, yes, hippocampus also stores the rat's memory. But in addition to memory, the spatial information is always somehow stored in the hippocampus. For example, assume that in this room, in this classroom, okay, imagine there's a rat and who is running around in this classroom. And inside of his hippocampus, there is a group of neurons which are called place cells. Okay, those place cells, they are recording locations of the classroom. So there could be a neuron, there could be a place cell that responds selectively to like the right front corner of the classroom. And there will be another place cell which is responding to the left back corner of the classroom. And there will be another place cell that is responding to the central location of this classroom. So each place cell in the hippocampus is sensitive to a particular location of the classroom, just like the maze. When you are recording the rat's place cells and let the rat move around in this maze at the same time, you can guess, you can estimate where that rat is by the responses of his place cells. Okay. So, for example, there could be one place cell that is sensitive to this location. So whenever the rat comes here, that place cell will fire, will generate action potentials. And when the rat goes to this location, there will be another place cells firing. And the rat comes to this location, there will be another place cells that is firing. So you can investigate the firing rate patterns of those place cells to guess where that rat is. Each location has a corresponding place cells in the rat's hippocampus. And what is it to do? What does it have anything to do with dreaming? The trick about this finding is if you put the rat into sleep, those place cells, they are also firing as well. Okay, although the rat is sleeping, the rat is not moving at all, but their place cells are still firing as if the rat is running in the maze. So you can somehow guess that the rat must be dreaming about the maze by the firing pattern of their place cells. So this is how they investigate how rats dream. So far, does anyone have any question? There will be more clear if you have the video to watch, but unfortunately, it's not available anymore. So I have this is the only thing I can do. I have to explain the things on the blackboard. Okay. So with this technique, you can sort of figure out what a rat dreams about. And they have found that for rats, they also have non-REM sleep. And also they have REM sleep as well. And what the difference between them is, rats, they dream in the two stages, in both of the stages. But there is a difference. The difference is, if you look at the non-REM sleep, they are faster. Okay, when they are in the non-REM sleep stage, you can sort of feel that those place cells, it might be it might be this place cells is firing here. Just one flash. You can see one particular place cells firing at one spot, one flash. And you see another flash. And you see another flash. And you see another flash. They are not continuous. So it feels like the rat is dreaming some particular locations in the maze, but they are not continuous. The rat is trying to recall those fragmented information about this maze, and those information, they are not continuous. Okay. As if, just imagine, like when you are, if you are taking note, and before the exam, you are reading your notebook, and imagine that you are not reading them continuously. You just read one page, and then turn to the other page, and then come back to the other page. Okay. You're not reviewing the information continuously. So that is what a rat is doing during non-REM sleep. A rat seems to recall what he has just learned, but those information are fragmented and very quick. And after the non-REM sleep, when they get into REM sleep, their dreams seems to be more continuous. If you look at their place cells firing, it is more like, okay, it's starting from here and goes to here and goes to here, goes to here, goes to here, goes to here, goes to here. It's continuous, as if the rat is walking in the maze again, as if the rat is rehearsing how to walk in the maze. So that research team, they formed a hypothesis. That hypothesis is, why do we dream? Yes, we dream because we are learning new skills. We are learning new knowledge every day. And we need the time to review, to integrate those knowledge. What is the time? It has the time that there is no other stimulation. It has the time that the person is not busy processing other stuff. So that time has to be sleeping. So why do we dream during sleep? Because when we are sleeping, we are not bothered by other stimulation. So our body, our cognitive system has the time and the energy focusing on integrating new skills into our old memory. And during the non-REM sleep, you are reviewing those knowledge again. Okay. And then when you go into the REM sleep, you are actually replaying what you have learned. Okay. Just like the rat is running again in the maze when he's in the non-REM sleep stage. So this is one of the hypotheses about dreaming. Okay. Because we are learning new things, new knowledge, new skill every day, and we need an opportunity to rehearse, to replay what we have learned, and we replay those knowledge. We rehearse those knowledge when we are dreaming. Okay. So that was dreaming. Now, let's have a brief review. In terms of dreaming, early psychologists, for example, Sigmund Freud, he founded psychoanalysis. And in his theory, why do we dream? Because there are a lot of unconscious things in our mind, and they are seeking an opportunity to live into your consciousness, which is when you are dreaming. So the contents when you are dreaming, actually they are the contents coming out from your subconsciousness. This is according to Sigmund Freud. But in addition to psychoanalysis, other scholars, they have different approaches to study dreams. And most contemporary neuroscientists or psychologists they found that why do we dream? Because we are learning new skills and knowledge, and we need an opportunity to consolidate or to integrate those new knowledge into our memory system, and that happens when we were dreaming. Okay. But which hypothesis is correct? We are not sure. What I have talked about, they were just theories and hypotheses. Okay. Here are some facts about sleeping and dreaming. This is what happens during one night. So at the beginning, this is when you are awake, and then you fall asleep. You go into stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and then stage 4, stage 3, stage 2, and then you don't awake. You go to REM sleep. Okay, this is one cycle. And usually, averagely, there will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish cycles in one night. Okay. And this is how our dreaming hours vary across lifespan. So when you are very, very young, when you were just a baby, you sleep a lot. You also dream a lot. Okay, this is average sleeping hour for a baby, like 16 hours. And as you grow, the sleeping hour is getting less and less. Okay. And interestingly, if you compare the non-REM sleep and REM sleep, you can see a pattern that the REM sleep, it changes much more dramatic than the non-REM sleep. So this is also a piece of supportive evidence that dreaming has something to do with learning, because you can imagine for a baby, everything's new. So a baby has to learn many new things every day. Probably that is how a baby needs more time to sleep. A baby needs more time to dream, because they need more time to integrate their new knowledge into their old memory. Okay, and there are some other facts about sleeping and dreaming. There's phenomenon, sleeping paralysis. What is sleep paralysis? Remember last week when I showed you the video, in the beginning part of the video, a very important thing that happens when we are dreaming is basically our muscle tones, they are totally paralyzed. We can't move when we are sleeping or dreaming. But in some of rare cases, that kind of paralyzing mechanism is still going on even when you are awake. Okay. Then the consequence is you are awake, but you can't move. Okay. This is sleep paralysis. And people have a lot of supernatural explanation about this. But one of the more scientific explanation is because when you are dreaming, when you are sleeping, your muscles are paralyzed. But unfortunately, because maybe there's something wrong with you, you are not feeling very well, so that paralyzing system, the paralyzing mechanism is still working even when you have awakened. And the consequence is you can't move when you are awake, which is sleep paralysis. Also, the next thing, sleepwalking. Sleepwalking, basically we don't know much about sleepwalking. What we know about it is usually it happens during non-REM sleep, firstly, and it's more common on children. Okay. This is sleepwalking. And this is a myth about dreaming. Usually when people ask you, what did you dream? Did you dream last night? Probably you can't recall anything. You would answer that I didn't dream. But is it really that you didn't dream, or you might just have forgotten about it? Okay. So if you can't recall your dream, it doesn't mean that you didn't dream. You could have dreamed, but you just have forgotten. Okay, so if you're interesting about how contemporary scientists look at dreams, and this is a very good book. Okay, it has Chinese translation. The Chemistry of Conscious States. 2 weeks ago and last week we talked about perception, how our vision, audition, touch, something like that work, and then we talked about dream. Okay. And the reason why we talked about dream after perception is, for perception, usually you perceive something, it is because there is something, so you perceive them. Okay? And dreaming is one of the examples where there is nothing there, but you still perceive something. But actually, dreaming is not the only situation that kind of things happen. There are also some other situations where there's nothing there, but you still perceive something. Okay. Something like for people who have schizophrenia, 以前叫精神分裂了哈，现在中文叫思觉失调 schizophrenia. One of the major symptoms for schizophrenic patients is they will report they hear something, but actually there is nothing there. So this is also one of the examples where there's nothing but you perceive something. Or when people are taking drugs, some drugs can also cause hallucinations. By definition, hallucinations mean there's nothing there but you hear something. That is hallucination. There is another state where there is nothing but you feel like there is something. Hypnosis. 催眠哦。Actually, the word hypnosis in Chinese is 催眠. When you talk about 催眠, it has something to do with sleeping. The English hypnosis, hypno, is also a Greek word meaning sleeping. So in both languages, this term, they have something to do with sleeping. But actually, it could be irrelevant to sleep. But we don't know. Right? What we know about hypnosis today is it's a state of human consciousness. It's a state. What is a state of consciousness? Like when you are awake, it's a state. When you are asleep, it's another state. When you are taking drugs, it's another state. Okay. Hypnosis is also a unique state, which could be different from awake, asleep, taking drug. It's a unique on its own. Okay. And what is the feature about this unique state of consciousness? When people are under hypnosis, they have enhanced capacity for response to suggestion. What is suggestion? A suggestion could be something like, whenever you hear this and you become a dog, this is a suggestion. Okay? But for most of us, when you are totally awake, you wouldn't respond to this kind of ridiculous suggestion. But for people under hypnosis, they could be more vulnerable to all kinds of suggestions. So it's possible, it's really possible that if you perform a hypnosis on people, and when you give them a suggestion that whenever you hear this, you become a dog, they probably start to bark. It's possible for people under hypnosis. There could be a lot of different interesting, funny, bizarre examples about hypnosis. The example that I just gave is one of the examples. Or it could be like this. When someone gets a suggestion like your arm is turned into an iron rock, and then if the people is under this kind of state, if you ask them to bend their arm, they couldn't, because they do think that their arm has become an iron rod. Hypnosis is something mysterious. Okay. Because probably for most of us, if I want you to imagine that what it feels like when you are sleeping, what it feels like when you are drunk, okay, it's not too hard to imagine, because most of us have experiences of being awake, being asleep, and being drunk. But for hypnosis, not many people have the experiences of being hypnotized. It's relatively rare cases. Okay. So actually it's really hard to talk about how it feels like and what's going on when someone is being hypnotized. Is this something between sleeping and waking, or something totally unique? Actually, we don't know. Although the word hypnosis, it implies it has something to do with sleeping, but it doesn't have to be. It could be totally irrelevant to sleeping. It could be totally independent of sleeping or waking. Okay. There's no way you can know or you can experience about hypnosis unless you are really being hypnotized. But being hypnotized is something that is not something that would happen on everyone, because there is a statistics about how easily people can be hypnotized. According to these statistics, okay, the horizontal axis here denotes the percentage of subjects, and the vertical axis here denotes how easy a person could be hypnotized, which we call hypnotizability. Okay, if you have high hypnotizability, that means you are very easy to be hypnotized. If you look at the statistic here, actually the majority of people, they are not very easy to be hypnotized. Only a small amount of people could be hypnotized easily. And some people, they might be wondering, is it because those people, they are more gullible? Gullible means, okay, they are easy to be, 他们比较容易被骗啊, okay? Is it possible? Actually, there have been some studies. They find actually there is little, almost non-correlation between how gullible a person is, okay? or the conformity of this person. Okay, 服从性. So far, we don't have any correlational data about personality traits and hypnotizability. Hypnotizability seems to be a unique trait. It doesn't correlate with any other personality traits.